Hello, hello, hello. What's going on, everybody? Happy Sunday. Happy Mother's Day. All right. So, as always, it's your favorite astrologer, Mel, me, of Divine Feminine Works. And as always, I hope that this video finds you well and in excellent spirits. If you're new here, welcome. If you're returning, welcome back. This channel is everything tarot, astrology, spirituality, and manifestation. So if those are the things you like, if those are the things you love, if those are the things you want to learn more about, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, as well as that notification bell, so you'll always be notified when I come out with new content. And speaking of content, head over to Instagram and hit that follow button. I've got loads of excellent daily content. Plus, I go live every Thursday night at 8:30 Eastern Standard Time for live readings by sign. All right, so head over there, follow me so you don't miss any of that great stuff. All right. So, new day, new week, new energy. All right, but first and foremost, before I go forward, I just want to wish all of the mothers out there a happy Mother's Day. Whether you are a mother, a grandmother, an auntie, a godmother, foster mother, today is the day to celebrate yourself, to celebrate other mothers, and to feel that lovely, beautiful, loving, nurturing energy. All right, so hopefully you guys who are celebrating are relaxing, getting pampered, having such a wonderful day. So again, I wish all the mothers out there happy Mother's Day. All right, so it is Sunday, so it is our day to talk about the week ahead, astrologically speaking. So before I get into this week, let's talk a little bit about last week. All right, I always like to give a little weekly recap of what we just came through, right? So last week was all about opportunity. We didn't have any really major astrological events last week, just a couple of planets, aspecting each other. But by and large, we had a lot of sextiles. And sextiles are all about opportunity. So last week, we had a lot of this really positive energy that was available to us if we wanted to use it, whether it was to move forward, whether it was to sort of get our lives together, whether it was to tackle difficult tasks. We had a lot of energy at our disposal, okay? We had a lot of opportunity. So it kind of put us in the driver's seat. Sextiles are all about opportunity, but it's opportunity that you have to put in a little bit of effort with sextiles. So again, last week we were sort of in the driver's seat. The energy is at our disposal, and it was up to us whether we wanted to use it or not. This week is a little different because we've got a lot of energy shifts. And this week we've got two major astrological events that are going down. All right, so let's take a look at the week and see what we've got. All right, so on Monday, we've got the moon in Virgo. Then on Tuesday, we have the fan favorite Mercury Retrograde. Mercury's going to go retrograde in its home sign of Gemini. That same day, we have a major energy shift when Jupiter moves into the sign of Aries, okay? Thereafter, on Thursday, we have the moon moving into Libra. Friday, we have Sun conjunct the North Node. Saturday, we have Mars sextile the North Node and the moon moving into Scorpio. And then finally, on Sunday, we have the Sun sextile Neptune, and the Sun is also going to be squaring Saturn. All right. So again, it's not necessarily a week of actually it is going to be a week of major astrological events because again, we've got Mercury retrograde and we have Jupiter in Aries. It's going to be this really interesting energy because on the one hand, we're going to be really motivated to move forward, but that Mercury in retrograde is sort of going to pull us back, particularly in our thoughts and our communication, and get us to sort of revisit certain things. All right. So as always, before we get into the nitty gritty, I want to basically let you know that I have this thing that I created available for download that is super helpful, especially if you're new to astrology, or even if you've started, learning astrology and you sort of just need something as like a cheat sheet, right? And that's exactly what it is. It's called the Astrology Basics Cheat Sheet. It's an 11-page PDF document that gives you all of the basics that you need to know with respect to learning astrology, right? So it talks about the planets, the houses, the signs, and the aspects. So it really just gives you the quick and dirty on what everything is. It gives you all the symbology. It gives you a breakdown of the houses, the signs, and here we have the aspects. Basically everything that you need to start learning astrology and sort of getting it to stick, because astrology can be really technical, a lot of different terms, can be a little confusing. So I packaged it all together so you guys have something to reference while studying astrology. All right. And if you're interested in that, the link is in the description description box below. Totally free. It's a great resource, so I would definitely suggest that you download it today. All right. So let's talk about the week real quick. Well, not real quick. Let's give another overview of what we're working with this week and some of the major themes. All right. So first and foremost, we have the moon. So the moon, typically during a week, the moon is going to move into 3 different signs. And each week, the moon is in a different phase. All right. So we're in a very interesting time period right now because we're in between eclipses. So we had the new moon solar eclipse on April 30th, right? And that was a new moon. That's new beginnings. This was the eclipse where the universe was sort of rearranging things in your favor and adding all of the resources that you're going to need to align you with your destiny. All right. Super positive, even if it didn't seem really positive at the time. Okay. But that energy is still around, very much so. It's actually going to be around for the next 6 to 8 months, okay? So it's not one of those wham, bam, thank you, ma'am kind of things. It's really a slow progression that you're going to see breadcrumbs of as we progress further into the year, all right? And so we're actually about to experience another eclipse, a full moon lunar eclipse in the sign of Scorpio next week, next Monday to be exact. So we're right smack in between these 2 eclipses. So this is a sort of weird and wonky time. A lot of people say that, they're either very sleepy or their sleep schedules are messed up. I know me personally, I've been feeling a lot of is this real sort of energy? Like I'm having a little difficulty differentiating between what's real and what isn't. And it's sort of just this whirlwind of energy that it feels good, but it also makes me pause a little bit because I'm like, I don't know what's going on. I can't necessarily see the light at the end of the tunnel. So I'm sort of trying to be cautious. But I mean, that's not necessarily a bad way to approach it, but you really should be approaching eclipses sort of in joyful anticipation if you can. In this, you sort of want to have this level of receptivity because, again, eclipses are the universe's way of rearranging things in our lives, okay? Usually for the good, usually for our highest good, to sort of realign us with our destiny. And while the solar eclipse is all about adding things, eclipsing things into our lives, the lunar eclipse is about eclipsing things out of our lives and taking things out. So if you're noticing, you're probably already feeling the effects of this lunar eclipse that we're going to have next week. You're probably noticing that some things may be moving around, some things may be shifting. Maybe there are some people that you need to relinquish, that you need to say goodbye to. Perhaps people are relocating. Perhaps different things that you used in the past are no longer relevant to you. If you sort of take a moment to sort of be a little more self-aware, you'll notice that certain things are being eclipsed or are being moved around, right? And so that's what we're heading to. But I'm getting ahead of myself because I'm going to go all into the lunar eclipse next week, next Sunday at the weekly Astro forecast. But for now, I want to talk about the moon and this week, okay? So this week, the moon is in the waxing gibbous phase, which means that it is gaining momentum and it's gaining more light because we're making our way toward the full moon. And in terms of like the spiritual meaning of waxing gibbous, it's all about gaining momentum, right? The new moon is where you set intentions. The full moon is when those intentions come to fruition. So in between that time, you're sort of working towards the completion of your goals, whether it's getting your mind right, whether it's getting your emotions right, whether it's getting the right resources, or whether it's being motivated to move forward. During the 2 weeks between the new moon and the full moon, you're sort of, again, gaining momentum, gaining speed when it comes to your goals, your ambitions coming to fruition. That's exactly what we're doing this week. And this week, the moon is going to be in Virgo, it's going to be in Libra, and it's going to be in Scorpio. So we have an earth element, right? The moon in Virgo is all about sort of perfecting and attention to detail. Then we have Libra, which is all about our thoughts and our communication, particularly as it relates to others. Perhaps midweek, there's going to be certain people that are going to be instrumental in helping you get to the finish line in terms of your goals and ambitions coming to fruition. And then when the moon moves into Scorpio, this is all going to be about diving deep into our psyche and our emotional body in order to get rid of the things that we don't need and that no longer serve us. So this week, we have the resources, we have the communication and the thoughts, and we have the emotions that we're sort of using and highlighting when it comes to our dreams, when it comes to our goals and our ambitions coming to fruition. All right. So that's the first major theme of the week. The second major theme of the week is our favorite Mercury retrograde. And being that Mercury retrograde is going to go retrograde in its home sign, things are going to be extra wonky, okay? Like this is the retrograde when communication really gets skewed. Miscommunication, misunderstandings, electronics going haywire is definitely going to be a theme for Mercury retrograde. And Mercury is going to go retrograde from the 10th on Tuesday until June 3rd. So for a good portion of May, Mercury is going to be retrograde, all right? And this is the time where we revisit things, we remember, we reminisce, we reassess. All of the re's go with retrograde, okay? So it gives us a chance also for a redo and a do-over with respect to certain things. And this Mercury retrograde is extremely interesting because we're seeing it play out in real time with a particular event, all right? But I'll get more into that when I break down each particular day. The next theme we have for the week is Jupiter moving into Aries. Whenever Jupiter makes a sign change, it's definitely a major energy shift, right? Although Jupiter is not considered a personal planet, so technically we're not necessarily going to feel this energy shift on a very personal level. However, Jupiter is an expander, all right? And so we are going to feel it in a certain area of our lives, and that all depends on where Aries is in your chart. Wherever this is going down in your chart is where things are going to expand. It's where abundance can be found. It's where you can finally grow, and whether that is grow in body, whether it's growing in your mindset, whether it's growing in terms of your personal development, Jupiter is going to expand whatever it touches. And Jupiter actually just finished a revolution around the zodiac, okay? So going into Aries, Jupiter is sort of starting this cosmic path all over again, all right? And it's going to bring some really interesting energy. And then finally, the next theme that we have for this week is sort of this date with destiny, is what I'm calling it, because we have the Sun conjunct the North Node, and we have Mars sextile the North Node. So what's going to happen is a lot of our consciousness and a lot of our motivational energy, even our physical energy, is going to be geared towards sort of aligning us with our destiny. Many of us are going to be conscious of our purpose in life, what we need to be doing. Our instincts are going to really speak to us as far as where we're headed, what our vocation is, what we're supposed to be doing here. So we have this sort of date with destiny, particularly later in the week, that's going to be extremely important. And a lot of the things that we do, that we say, the people that we interact with are going to be integral in terms of our destiny, our fate, where we're headed in this life. So there's this ethereal energy this week, all right? So again, it's going to be a really interesting week, and let's sort of get into it and see what we've got for each day. All right, so let's start with Monday. So on Monday, we have the waxing gibbous moon in Virgo, like I mentioned before. And again, the waxing gibbous is all about gaining momentum in terms of our goals and our ambitions. So you'll see at the top left part of the chart, you'll see the moon in brown that's going to be at 0 degrees of Virgo. It's also going to be opposite to Saturn, which is at 24 degrees Aquarius, which you'll see at the bottom right of your screen, okay? So it's interesting because when we're talking about the moon opposite Saturn, our emotions tend to be extremely far removed from our responsibilities, okay? This is one of those transits where you know that you have things to do, you know that you have responsibilities to take care of, but your emotions are just not about it. In terms of Saturn in Aquarius, it's all about thinking forward. It's all about thinking ahead, futuristic thinking in terms of what structure and discipline you need to have in terms of having a future, in terms of what your future is going to look like, future planning, all of that stuff. But your emotions are really going to be centered on your day-to-day activities and the things that are sort of immediate to you. I'll give you a perfect example. Saturn in Aquarius may, depending on where it's going down in your chart, it may be all about setting up a savings plan, right? Let's say this is affecting your money sector. And Saturn is all about, okay, you see this whole Bitcoin thing and cryptocurrency? We really need to get in on this, because if this is going to be something that's going to be prevalent in the future, we need to get in now. We need to get in structured so we can start saving and making money. But the moon in Virgo is going to be like, but I have to take care of these bills right now. I have to take care of these responsibilities. Like I can't even begin to think about the future because everything about me, especially my emotions, are wrapped up in my day-to-day activities, really focused on what's in front of you. And that's sort of how this transit is going to play out. Again, this is the moon in Virgo, opposite Saturn in Aquarius. So on Monday, you're probably going to feel torn between the present and the future, in terms of how you're feeling and what sort of plans you need to make for the future, right? Moon in Virgo is really all about solving problems, taking care of practical tasks. Again, with the example I was giving before, if your money is all tied up in your daily bills, maybe you have a project you're working on now that's requiring capital that you have in hand, it's going to be hard to really focus and think about setting yourself up for the future, okay? It's also, Moon in Virgo is also about reorganizing, rethinking. And again, this is about sort of taking care of your day-to-day tasks. Anything that requires an attention to detail is going to be great to do on Monday, because that's everything that Virgo is about, all right? And like I said before, with the moon being in the waxing gibbous phase, this is going to be about reorganizing and perhaps getting efficient in your daily routine so that you can make your way to your goals. Let's say, again, I'm going to use the example of money, but I'm going to use it in a different way. So let's say that your goal is to spend less money or to save more money. Moon in Virgo, particularly waxing gibbous moon in Virgo, is going to be about how can you reorganize yourself? How can you be more efficient in terms of your use of money so that you can make it to that goal of saving more and spending less, okay? Moon in Virgo is very practical. It's very detail oriented. It's very realistic, okay? So this isn't going to be overly emotional. Again, the beginning of the week is going to be great for tackling anything that requires an attention to detail. Also serving and helping others. You're definitely going to want to do that while the moon is in Virgo. I think that builds up good karma, number one, but it's also the essence of Virgo. Virgo is a very service-oriented sign. And so I feel like any sort of those activities are going to thrive while the moon is in Virgo. All right. So that's what we have on Monday. So now let's move on to Tuesday. All right. So on Tuesday, we have Mercury retrograde. Okay. And you'll see that at the top right screen. You'll see this little purple guy with like little horns. The number you see, and it's at 4 degrees Gemini. The fact that the number is in red denotes that it is retrograde, okay? So we've got Mercury retrograde. And if you look further down the screen, you'll see a gray number 4. That is the symbol for Jupiter. And Jupiter will have just entered Aries. It will be at 0 degrees Aries. So this is the day of the week that we're going to have these energetic shifts, all right? So like I said before, this Mercury retrograde, being that it's in its home sign of Gemini, the energy is going to be really potent. So definitely electronics malfunctioning, modes of transportation are going to be acting up. So if you travel by public transportation, let's say, you're going to want to leave extra room. You're going to want to leave a little earlier because, train delays, bus delays, those are all very prevalent. Things breaking down, such as electronics, but also cars and things like that, which could also cause delays. All of that stuff is going to be sort of ramped up because Mercury is in its home sign of Gemini. All right. So communication is going to be crazy. Your thoughts, it's almost like your thoughts may be playing tricks on you, right? Because Mercury is actually the sign of the trickster. It's that trickster sort of energy. So in retrograde, you may be thinking about things from the past. You know how I said before that we're in between eclipses? And I know, at least for me, it's sort of this, is this real or is this not being able to tell the difference between reality and fantasy? With Mercury retrograde, it's almost like your mind is going to be playing tricks on you, particularly with thoughts from the past, okay? So be mindful of what you're thinking about. Be mindful of how you speak to yourself. Your inner dialogue and even your dialogue with others is going to be affected heavily with Mercury retrograde in Gemini. So Double check everything. If you have to sign a contract, I would suggest that you don't. Try to put it off until after Mercury goes direct. But you're going to want to put that off. But if you can't, if you have to sign anything right now, definitely read through everything with a fine-tooth comb. If you can, get professional advice from a lawyer or an advisor who can really break down the contract for you, because it never fails. Anytime that Mercury is retrograde, there's always some fine print that you may miss. There's always some sort of ambiguous clause that sort of seems to make sense, but then after Mercury goes direct, you're like, wait, this makes absolutely no sense. And now you're bound to it, right? So you're going to want to retrace your steps, go through everything with a fine-tooth comb, because Mercury, again, is the trickster, all right? So whenever a planet goes retrograde, there is a pre-shadow period, the retrograde period, and then the post-retrograde period. So we entered Mercury's shadow phase on April 26th. So between April 26th and May 10th was the shadow phase. And this is when Mercury was preparing to go retrograde. So as far back as the 26th, you could have noticed or have been feeling the effects of this, right? And then Mercury is going to go retrograde from the 10th, from May 10th until June 3rd. And then from June 3rd until June 18th is going to be the next shadow phase when Mercury is turning direct. So between April 26th and June 18th, this Mercury retrograde energy is affecting us, okay? So I say that to say that you're going to want to be patient. Again, you're going to want to double check everything for the next month, because June 18th is roughly a month and change away from now. So you're going to want to, again, look over everything twice, do all of the regular Mercury retrograde stuff, but it's also a great opportunity to redo things and revisit things, right? And speaking of revisiting, one of the most major things that we are revisiting now is this. Abortion laws. And I bring this up because I wanted to give you a concrete example, a real world example of Mercury retrograde in action, okay? So if you've been paying attention to the news, especially if you're in the United States, and even if you're not in the United States, I feel like this news has made world headlines, right? The Supreme Court, there was a leaked decision, right? And basically they looked like they were going to repeal Roe versus Wade, meaning that back in 1973, Roe versus Wade granted women the right to have an abortion and all of the rules that come along with that. And a lot of the conservative right of America want to take that away. They want for abortion to be outlawed and to be illegal. And so the Supreme Court is currently in talks about this, but a draft opinion was leaked where it seems like the Supreme Court is going to side with the conservative right and sort of make abortion illegal. And I know myself, I asked myself this last week when I saw this on the news. I'm like, why are they bothering this, right? This was something that was established 40, close to 50 years ago. Why are they revisiting it? Well, they're revisiting it because of Mercury retrograde, particularly in the sign of Gemini in terms of ideas, right? This is the perfect example of Mercury retrograde. Revisiting a law, revisiting this whole idea of abortion, and it being so hotly debated is also due to the astrology as well, because Mercury retrograde is actually going to be square to the moon in Virgo, particularly tomorrow on Monday. So this causes a lot of tension between thoughts and feelings, right? Depending on how you think about abortion and how you feel about abortion, those two may be in conflict, or anything for that matter. Any idea that you've had in the past may come up for review, and your thoughts about it versus your feelings about it are going to be in conflict, okay? This also gives way to a lot of heated debate, which we've seen with this whole abortion debate over the last week. And that's sort of how a lot of ideas that we've had coming up for review are going to feel. A lot of us may have this in terms of our external relationships. So we may be debating other people. For some, this may be on an internal level where you feel conflicted perhaps about something that you knew or something that you believed in the past. And now you're kind of thinking, does this still serve me in the same way? Does this still make sense for me? And you may feel conflicted in terms of that, all right? So there's going to be a lot of things that we thought about, things that we knew, quote unquote, or things that we even believed from the past coming up for review, and we get a do-over with them. We get to revisit them, revamp them, and make them work for us in a way that makes sense right now, okay? Because some are arguing that Roe versus Wade never should have passed, right? That, the right to abortion and pro-choice is something that's morally, horrible and things like that. I'm not one to speak on any sort of side right now, but I feel like some are thinking that this is a chance to do this the right way now, depending on what your beliefs are. And again, that sort of Mercury retrograde energy of things from the past coming up and reviewing them is what is going to be the theme from now until mid-June. Okay, so I always think Mercury retrograde is a really fortunate sort of time. It doesn't always feel that way, right? Because when your phone is acting up, when your printer is not working like it should be, it's very frustrating, especially if you find that Mercury retrograde really gives you problems with communication or expressing yourself. It can really be frustrating. Like, that goes without saying. But at the same time, the fact that you can review things is really good. I am an attorney by trade, and when I was practicing, I didn't use astrology, I felt like, as I should have. Knowing what I know about astrology now, I feel like if I had implemented that in my practice, I think it would have been really interesting and really good, right? But one of the things I would say is that during Mercury retrograde is the perfect time to renegotiate contracts. It's not the time to re-sign contracts. Understand the difference in what I'm saying. But it's really important, and it really could be to your benefit, to review your contracts. So for instance, and this just came to mind and it makes perfect sense, reviewing your wireless bill plan. I know that sounds really mundane, but I can almost guarantee that if you review it and then you speak to a representative or you talk about what you want to change, especially if you're a longtime customer of that particular company, I can almost guarantee that it can be changed in your favor. And that's what I mean, that's the blessing that Mercury retrograde provides. It allows us to redo things, redo paperwork, revisit ideas that we had. It's a very fortunate time if you'll use that energy for that purpose. Don't just think about it in terms of negativity, right? Oh, this isn't going to work. Everyone's going to be all grouchy and shit. Everything's going to fall apart. While that may be true, if you really buy into that story, then of course that's the reality that's going to show up for you. But if you're like, oh, so if this allows me to redo and revisit things, what can I redo and revisit in my life? What can I revamp? What can I rethink? What can I resurrect? Especially in terms of ideas, especially if Mercury retrograde is going down in one of your houses that have to do with career or business. What business ideas from the past can I resurrect now? And then by the time that Mercury goes direct in mid-June, you can execute on those ideas. So Mercury retrograde can be really fortunate if you use it in that way. If you think of it in those terms, it can really be something really good. All right. But regardless, brace yourself for the usual, breakdowns, miscommunications, all that stuff, because all of that stuff is going to happen too. You just don't need to focus on it so much. All right. And then the next thing that we have, which I really like, and I feel like this is sort of the star event of the week, is Jupiter moving into Aries. Now, as I alluded to before, Jupiter makes its way around the zodiac wheel in 12 years. So we just finished a 12-year cycle with Jupiter in Pisces. And on Tuesday, Jupiter is going to go into Aries. And what I love about this transit is that it is the bringer of luck. It's the bringer of good fortune, right? And it's interesting because Jupiter in Aries is going to be all about taking a risk. Risking it, I'm not going to say risking it all, even though this picture sort of depicts that. Taking a risk, especially if you take a calculated one, is really going to pay off for you, okay? And let me explain with a personal anecdote. So like I just said before, Jupiter takes 12 years to go around the zodiac. So the last time that Jupiter was in Aries was in 2010 to 2011. And when I was doing the research, I busted out laughing because I was like, yo, astrology never fails. So back in 2010, like I mentioned before, I'm an attorney by trade. I started my own law firm in 2010. And when I tell you that that was a risk, it was a big risk. Number one, because it was my first business ever that I was starting. And number two, I was sort of fresh out of law school. I had graduated law school in 2008. And by 2010, I'd only really been practicing for a year and change. And the fact that I was going out on my own was very risky in terms of experience, in terms of money, in terms of marketing. This was my very first business that I was really taking seriously and really putting myself out there with. So it was a big risk. But I will say this, I ended up having my practice for 10 years. And in that time, I did some really amazing things. And it's interesting because Aries is my 12th house. And the 12th house is all about faith. And so Jupiter in Aries, for me personally, as a Taurus rising, was all about taking a risk by stepping out on faith. And when I tell you that it, not only did it pay me really well, but it was like my life's purpose. It was everything I needed in life at the time. And had I not taken that risk, I wouldn't have accomplished any of the great things that I did. I wouldn't have felt this sense of accomplishment and satisfaction that I did. So I say all of that to say Jupiter in Aries is all about taking a risk. It's also about starting new things because Aries is the first sign of the zodiac. So this is all about having the motivation and the drive and even the physical energy to start something new in a bold and exciting way. And I say that taking a risk can really pay off because Jupiter expands things. So this is like your breakthrough moment. This is the time where if you really take a risk and put yourself out there, Jupiter is going to expand things so much more than if you didn't take the risk or if you didn't take the risk while Jupiter was in Aries, okay? So a lot can be accomplished. This is like trailblazing energy, which is why I love it so much. It's all about courage, leadership, and optimism. Jupiter is all about being faithful and optimistic. So whatever you're really passionate about, you're definitely going to want to take steps, take action steps, especially because Aries is a fire sign. You're going to want to take action steps because Jupiter is going to give you that huge push to really make things happen. Okay. Again, like I said, taking risk leads to reward and abundance. And with Jupiter in Aries, you're going to want to be instinctual, not intuitive. Instinctual. You're going to want to listen to your instincts, okay? And you're going to want to be a bit impulsive. Like if you feel something is stirring within you, your passion or your desire. Jupiter in Aries is all about, do it and do it big. Say it with your chest. Really put yourself out there. Really do the damn thing and you will find your abundance that way, okay? So actually, I want you guys to think back to 2010, 2011. I believe that Jupiter entered Aries around May or June of 2010. So from that June 2010 to June 2011, where were you? What were you doing? What did you, if you can remember that far back, what did you feel guided to do? In doing that, in sort of reflecting on that, that's going to give you a clue as to how Jupiter in Aries can serve you this time around that it's in Aries, right? So Jupiter, like I said, it's going into Aries on May 10th, and it's going to last until October 28th. But from now until next year, right, Jupiter is going to be in Aries. October 28th, it's going to go back into Pisces. December 20th, it's going to go forward back into Aries and it'll remain there until May of 2023. So between now and next year, wherever Aries and Pisces are in your chart is where your abundance lies. So you're going to want to look at your chart very well and see what areas of life this is going to affect for you. It could be money, it could be relationships, but you're not going to know unless you look at your chart, all right? So that's where you can find your blessings. That's where you can find your abundance. That's when the universe is going to sprinkle magic gold dust all over your life. All right. It's a really great transit. It's a great way to start something new, start something lasting, because that is where your abundance is going to lie. All right. Can't stress that enough. It's a really dope transit. All right. So that is Tuesday. Now let's get into Thursday because we don't have anything on Wednesday. So on Thursday, we have the moon in Libra. And if you'll notice at the top right-hand part of the chart, you'll see that brown moon at 0 degrees Libra. So like I said before, the moon is in the wax and gibbous phase. So it's all about gaining momentum towards the completion of our goals. Libra is the relationship sign. So when the moon is in Libra, our emotions are very much geared toward how we relate to others. Maybe a lot of what we do is motivated by desire to relate to others, to feel love, to feel like you belong to part of, I'm not even gonna say a group, but that feeling of, when you interact with people, not feeling lonely, right? That's sort of going to be your motivation in when the moon is in Libra, okay? Now, what's interesting is that in Virgo, it's all about sort of when the moon is in Virgo, we're motivated by a desire to reorganize, to restructure, to be efficient. It's almost like putting everything in order in a very practical sort of way. Now, when the moon is in Libra, we also want to put things in order, but it's all about doing that by having really good relations with other people and interactions with other people. So moon in Libra tends to make us a bit social. It tends to get us out of our shell a little bit to really talk to people. And again, if we're talking about the wax and gibbous phase, it's all about gaining momentum towards the completion of your goals. So Moon in Libra can really help us find people who can help us do that. It's like we work towards our goals by realizing that we don't always have to work alone. We can work with others. And so when we put two heads are usually better than one, right? So when you find someone who can help you complete your goals, particularly on a one-to-one level, Moon in Libra is going to be excellent for that, okay? Now, keep in mind that Moon in Libra also carries some other characteristics, and this could be like people pleasing. So some of you may be more concerned about others' opinions about your goals rather than, just the goals themselves. Libra is also about seeing both sides of a situation, which is great if you're taking a holistic view. But in terms of making a decision, it can make you pretty indecisive. All right. So it may be hard to sort of find your footing because you're like, well, I see this point or I see this angle. And it's like it can sort of paralyze you from making a move. Okay. So you're going to want to be cognizant of those sort of ideas. But anything involving teamwork, anything involving relationships, even anything that involves beauty, okay, your idea of beauty, what you find beautiful is going to really thrive while the moon is in Libra. And again, that's going down on Thursday. All right, so next up, we've got Friday. And on Friday, we have this date with destiny that I was talking about earlier in the live. All right. We have the sun conjunct the North Node. Now, the North Node is not a planet. It's not an asteroid. It's just a mathematical point that is derived from the position of all the other planets, right? But the North Node spiritually symbolizes our destiny, where we're headed in this lifetime, what we have to grow into in this particular lifetime, right? And you'll notice that both at the very bottom of the screen, you'll see the sun in brown next to that little horseshoe thing in black, and they're both going to be at 22 degrees Taurus, okay? So Sun conjunct North Node is a really sort of positive transit, and it makes you very cognizant and self-aware of what you need to be doing and where you need to be going and what your purpose is and what the purpose of life for you may be, all right? It also fosters like personal growth, initiative, self-confidence. Many may find that their physical body feels more energized. You may feel more motivated to reach a particular goal. Some of you may be figuring out what your life purpose is, and it's almost like the sun is going to energize that. It's almost like going to put a battery in your back in terms of where you need to go and what you need to be doing. It's fate and destiny. So despite what you may be aware of, know that this sort of transit lends itself to the universe sort of putting its hand in this whole thing and sort of doing what it needs to do to get you to where you need to go. Okay. This transit is also about prestige. It's about unlocking new paths that match your true nature. So even if it's not necessarily a life goal or life purpose or a vocation that you feel strongly about, this transit lends itself to putting you in the direction of your true nature, okay? The essence of you, especially if we're talking about the sun. It's all about your personality and the essence of who you are. And this is just one of those transits where things are going to be moved around. People are going to be moved around. You may even be moved around so that your true nature, it's almost like you are following your true north, your North Star, okay? Like I said, it's a positive period for physical health and vitality. It's also just a really positive transit to like just in and of itself. It gives things like happy events, success, support from the universe. And I like this energy, particularly right now, especially with the eclipse that we just had and the eclipse that we're about to have. It's sort of like giving you a glimpse of where you're headed, but in a very positive way. Like I said, the new moon solar eclipse that we had on the 30th was really about the universe adding things, eclipsing things to your life, and it was very positive. The full moon lunar eclipse is not going to have that same sort of energy. It might be very jarring. It's definitely going to stir up a lot of emotions, a lot of deep-seated emotions, and it's going to be a little more, I hate to say this, but it's going to be a little more negative, all right? But with the sun conjunct the North Node on Friday, I feel like this is going to be a splash of positivity and showing you in a very positive way where you're headed. So it's very, very beautiful energy. Again, and with what I love about it is because the sun is in the mix, the sun is conjunct the North Node, you're going to see and understand where you're going. It's not like things are going on behind the scenes and you're not aware. You're actually going to be aware of this. And the fact that this is all going down in the sign of Taurus is going to happen in a very real way. But keep in mind that this is just going to be a glimpse of it, okay? It's going to be a glimpse of where you're headed. And it's going to set the foundation. So you're not going to be able to see the whole house yet. We're just setting the foundation at this point, but it's going to feel good and it's going to make sense to you because it's going to be aligned with your true nature. All right. So again, it's such a beautiful, beautiful energy. All right. And then that very next day, we have Mars sextile the North Node. Okay. So you'll notice Mars at the top left of the screen, the little masculine symbol in red is at 22 degrees Pisces. Okay. And then we have the North Node, which is at 22 degrees Taurus. Okay. So what's interesting is that Mars sextile the North Node is going to put some extra energy, some extra boost on that. So it's almost like with the sun conjunct the North Node, you're aware of where you need to go. Mars sextile the North Node is going to give you the opportunity to actually take action steps toward that goal, towards that life purpose, towards your true nature, okay? It's going to put a serious battery in your back. So over the weekend, like going into the weekend and over the weekend, a lot of us are going to feel very energized, very ambitious, very motivated to do certain things, especially things that we're passionate about, things that, again, align with our true nature. It's going to be very, very positive, okay? Some of you may have a lot of physical strength and energy over the weekend. So if you find that it's a bit too much for you, do something like dancing, moving, exercising, whatever it is, get your body moving so you can dispel some of that energy. But you're going to want to channel that energy into doing something related to the goal or the life purpose or your nature that you're trying to achieve. So let's say, for example, you know, sun conjunct the North Node is really making you feel like, okay, it's really time for me to start this business. It's really time for me to step out and, you know, provide my own sense of security. So I really want to start this business. I feel like over the weekend, you're going to be, I'm not even going to say doing a lot of research. I feel like you're going to be so motivated. You're going to start taking all these little steps. I can so imagine someone just sort of sitting in front of their laptop on Saturday morning, like, oh, let me just research this real quick. And then by Saturday afternoon, you've got 1,000,001 ideas. You've got plans in place. You know exactly what your website wants to look like. You're thinking about the services you want to provide, what products you want to provide. Like, you're going to be really amped and motivated to do this, which is amazing. It's really great. And you're going to be very clear on what it is that you want to do. Again, because we have the sun in the mix with the sun conjunct the North Node, which is happening on Friday. So it's not even like, oh, I have this feeling that I want to do something, but I'm not sure what it is. I feel like you're going to be like, this is exactly what I want to do. And this is what I'm going to do to make it happen. And you're going to do it. It's going to be great. You're going to be blazing trails and you're going to be creating your own opportunities. All right. Mars is, the ruler of Aries, and it's very enterprising. It's very initiating. It's about starting new things in a bold way, okay? And you're going to have that backup from Jupiter because Jupiter is going to be in Aries. So anything that you put your mind to with respect to your life purpose, your goals, or again, your true nature, that is where you're going to find your abundance this week. So you're going to want to put pen to paper. You're going to want to, really put yourself out there and take those first action steps, because taking that risk is going to pay off handsomely. And when I say handsomely, I mean handsomely in the next couple of months or even the next couple of years. Okay. So don't sleep on this energy. Use it to its fullest advantage. Okay. So that is Mars sextile the North Node on Saturday. That same day, we have the moon moving into Scorpio. Okay. And so this is going to make you feel things on a very deep level. All right. This is going to stir up your passion. So again, I feel like on Saturday, so many of you are going to be amped, and your deepest desires with respect to this are going to come to the surface. So you're going to be feeling this very intensely. All right. It's also going to be a great time to get rid of the habits that aren't going to serve you, particularly as you make your way to your goals. So it's also a bit of self-reflection. So again, to use my entrepreneurship example, let's say, again, you want to start a new business, right? You're amped. You know exactly what you want to do. You want to take those action steps, but you're also going to want to sit and be like, okay, what kind of mentality do I need as an entrepreneur? What habits do I have currently that may prevent me from having my own business or not being successful? So you're going to want to do a bit of self-reflection and a deep dive, not only into your emotions, but into your psyche. Again, to use the entrepreneurship example, that sort of endeavor requires a particular mindset. So where is your mind right now? Is your mind right, or is your mind not necessarily ready for some of these goals and dreams that you want to achieve? So Saturday is going to be a great day for a deep dive into yourself, some self-reflection. It's going to be great for ridding yourself of old fears and limiting beliefs. And you're going to want to understand why you do what you do. And I say that because Scorpio is all about getting down to the bottom of things, right? And so in doing so, it helps you, it gets you to answer the question, why? Why do I want to be an entrepreneur? What can I gain from this? Is there some sort of emotional need or emotional wound that this entrepreneurship journey is going to fix for me? Or is it going to give me some sort of satisfaction that I'm lacking in my life? You're going to get clear on the why as well, which is why I love the astrology of the latter part of next week, because you're not only going to be cognizant of what you're doing, you're going to have the motivation to do it, and you have the ability to understand why you're doing it too. And I'm telling you, if you take advantage of this energy and sort of do this work, you are going to set yourself up for some serious abundance, because again, Jupiter in Aries is going to back you up in a serious way. All right. I can't stress that enough. Okay. And so that's Saturday. So now finally we get to Sunday. And we've got the sun square Saturn. So you'll see towards the left side of your screen, the brown sun is at 24 degrees Taurus. And that's going to be square to Saturn, which is at 24 degrees Aquarius, which is the top left screen in maroon, right? And that same day, we have the sun sextile Neptune. So we've got the sun again at 24 degrees Taurus, and we've got Neptune at 24 degrees Pisces. All right. And you'll notice Neptune right next to Mars towards the top left of the screen. It's going to be in sky blue. So 2 important transits on Sunday. And it's really interesting the way that this plays out. All right. So like I just said, we've got all of this great energy with Jupiter and Aries. We've got the sun the sun conjunct the North Node, and then Mars sextile the North Node, and also Moon in Scorpio, right? So Jupiter in Aries is like, take that risk, like take that leap of faith, right? And the sun conjunct the North Node is like, all right, we know what we need to do. We're aware of what we need to do and where we're headed in life. Mars sextile the North Node is like, all right, I got the energy, the motivation, the drive to get this done. Moon in Scorpio was like, all right, I understand why I'm even doing this, why I feel this way, why I want to go after this. Good, right? Then on Sunday, the sun is going to square Saturn. And I laugh because this is sort of emblematic of life, right? You take 2 steps forward and then you kind of feel like you have to take 2 steps back. So Sun square Saturn is going to provide a bit of tension and a bit of obstacles and challenges, okay? And it's sort of like a test. I'm not someone who necessarily believes that the universe tests you, right? Some people believe that once you have a desire, the universe is like, all right, show me how much you want it, and sort of put a test in your way. I don't think of it in those terms. But I do think that a lot of times the things that we desire and the things that we want in life requires a certain person, and that person may not be who we are at the moment. And those tests are really opportunities to build character. And that's exactly what Sun square Saturn is like, okay? It challenges you to see not how much you want it. Are you the person who can have this? Right? Again, to go back to my entrepreneurship example, it requires a certain mindset. It requires a certain discipline. Do you have that discipline? Do you have that mindset to make it successful? Sun square Saturn is going to ask that of you, and it's sort of going to throw things in your path to build that character. It's not a test. The universe is not like, oh, you must not want it bad enough if you're not passing this test. Now, the universe is like, all right, I need you to get your discipline up. So I'm going to give you situations that are going to require you to have discipline. If your mind is not in the right place, I'm going to show you, and I'm going to put obstacles in your path to show you where your mind is at and where you may be lacking, and give you the opportunity to build that mindset so that you can be successful at this. All right. So it's all about will. It's all about determination and a very strong work ethic. Because what ends up happening is that a lot of times, especially if we have the energy and the drive to do something, it can be pretty fun and exciting and almost easy to start, right? But Rome was not built in a day. And a lot of our desires, a lot of our passions, a lot of our purposes are not going to happen over the course of a day, right? It's a marathon, not a sprint. And Saturn builds your endurance so that you can run that marathon. So what happens sometimes is that as soon as we meet an obstacle, we're like, okay, this is not meant for me. Especially if we're talking about something that we deem as our life purpose, we're kind of just like, oh my gosh, like this thing happened. This is really hard. Maybe this isn't for me. And Saturn is like, nope, this is for you. You just have to become the person who can have those things and who can sustain those things. So Saturn is almost like a personal trainer, right? You want to lose weight, but you got to put in that work. And that trainer is going to make things hard. That trainer is going to put your ass to work. And you are going to hate that trainer. Most people do not like Saturn transits because Saturn transits can be rough. It's the school of hard knocks. But guess what? When you pass those tests, Saturn gives you a reward that almost feels like a Jupiter reward. What I mean by that is Jupiter is the planet of abundance, right? But it's like effortless abundance. That's like a freebie that the universe gives you. Saturn can give you that same abundance, but you have to work for it. So don't be surprised if by early next week, all of this momentum that you're getting and all of this clarity that you have in terms of where you're supposed to go and what you need to be doing, it may be met with resistance. And that's not an excuse, nor is it a reason to quit or to think this isn't meant for me, right? Because some people, it can be very easy to say, when things get tough, oh yeah, this isn't meant for me. That's not true. That's not true at all. It's meant for you. You just have to work for it. And trust and believe the rewards are going to be great. And why? Again, because Jupiter in Aries is ready to back you up. All right. So have patience, but have determination and a strong work ethic. Okay. And on a more mundane level, Sun square Saturn is all about handling your responsibilities. So you're not going to want to procrastinate. You're not going to want to shirk your responsibilities. Whatever you have to handle, handle it. Handle it at that time. Get it out of the way, because trust and believe, whatever you put off when Sun is square Saturn is going to come back to bite you in the ass 10 times harder. Okay. So take care of your responsibilities and have that determination. Okay. But then what's great also is that we have the Sun sextile Neptune. And so the Sun sextile Neptune is going to enhance your sensitivity, your intuition, your creativity, your imagination. It's going to give you the ability to have valuable insight into things, particularly things in the future. And I say that this is great because while you're being met with resistance, Sun sextile Neptune is going to allow you to see the bigger picture. Okay, so when the moon was in Scorpio on Saturday, that sort of clued you in as to why you're doing what you're doing. Sun sextile Neptune is going to be able to, it's going to allow you to see almost into the future, especially those of you where this is, it's in a water sign, or some of you who are psychic, they're already tapped in. Like, this is going to allow you to see into the future. So while things in the present may feel stagnant, may feel challenging with Sun square Saturn, you're going to be able to see into the future. You're going to be able to imagine what your future looks like if you keep on this path, if you do this work, okay? So it gives you motivation, but in a different sort of way. It's not that Mars motivation that gives you that push, that battery in your back. It gives you the ability to imagine a beautiful future, which can also motivate you and which can keep you going when things get tough, okay? Again, you can gain valuable insight about yourself, about the people around you, and again, about your future. It's also a good transit because it allows people to help each other. So even if you're struggling, like I said, with Sun square Saturn, you may be in the throes of it. You may be in the trenches. Things may be difficult. You may be met with challenges. Sun sextile Neptune allows people to be empathetic and sympathetic. Okay. So this this allows people to help you, okay? Don't be afraid to reach out for help, because I feel like people are going to be more apt to help you with whatever it is that you're doing, okay? You can also use things like your dreams, occult and mystical stuff, astrology, even religion to understand yourself better. Okay, so remember, we had the moon in Scorpio on Saturday, which is all about understanding the why you're doing this. Why do I have this impulse to do this? Why do I feel like this is my life purpose? Okay. Now, if you use things like astrology, like if you examine your natal chart, or more importantly, if you examine your progressed natal chart, it can clue you in more as to why you're doing what you're doing and understanding yourself in a holistic sense. Okay. It's really positive transit for that. And again, if you feel like you need help from people, ask, because Sun sextile Neptune also reminds us that we're all one, right? And we feel connected to each other. And again, people are going to feel more empathetic and sympathetic. So people are more apt to help you get over that hump, help you carry that stone up the mountain, and help you deal with the challenges that are sure to come. All right. So that's pretty much the week in a nutshell. And I feel like it's such an amazing, amazing opportunity for us to gain insight into where we're going, to start things in a bold and exciting way, to revisit some of the things that we may have let go, or that should be reviewed at this time. So again, a lot of energy shifts, a lot of great energy at our disposal. And we really have the opportunity this week to get ahead with respect to the things that we want to have in life. All right. And the astrology most definitely supports that. All right, so that has been the weekly Astro forecast. Thank you so much for rocking with me on this very beautiful Mother's Day. Again, happy Mother's Day to all the mommies, grandmas, aunties out there. I hope you have a beautiful rest of the day. For everyone, I hope that this week finds you well. I hope that you get and find the abundance that we all so desperately want. And I hope that you have a great week. Take care, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.